Can he or she be a fraud? Who's the producer here? But scammers don't look like this. Where are the politicians here? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I have a comment this time from one of the viewers who says that he doesn't see why it is important to study art in order to make art. Thank you for the comment. First of all, we need to distinguish between studying a field and having an academic degree. An academic degree is a certificate by the state. It is more of a status, also because it can be bought for money or sometimes given, or if you have good friends in the politics, they might grant you an honorary academic degree. So sometimes having an academic degree doesn't necessarily mean mastery or knowledge. And sometimes it even means a coward that doesn't dare to challenge the status quo in order not to outshine the master and upset the politicians and the gatekeepers. So an academic degree can be necessary in some countries in order to work in the public sector, but is not necessarily an indication of knowledge and skill. Studying and learning, on the other hand, have not to do with the validation of governmental institution. And you don't have to study any field in order to make something relating to that field. But some fields are legally protected by the state, and some fields are open to the dynamics of the market and the private sector and to the interests of the client. In fields like law and medicine and architecture, one is obliged to have an academic degree. But other fields have other requirements. And because of that, and because they are open to the non-professional practice, it makes them appear, of course, it makes them appear to the ignorant that they are not necessary to study or even to respect. But this is a discipline. Of course, many would love to believe that it's an intuition that somebody's born with, and mental and emotional readiness is important, but we need to differentiate between creating for amateur purposes, like emotional and activity for free time, and between creating for spiritual, physical, cultural, and financial purposes. For example, you don't have to live in a disciplined and a strict diet and train every day in order to play basketball or football on the weekends with your friends. You can even smoke and live unhealthy. Yet, you can play and enjoy every aspect of the game. But conscious clients will not hire you or pay you for it. But you can play and enjoy with your friends and colleagues. You can win and lose. And you can talk about the game in the office and even bring family and friends to watch the game. They can even pay some fee in order to book the space or to bring drinks to the party where you play the game. No one of the players here has to be athletic. Yet, you can enjoy every moment of the game. However, clients and sponsors who are conscious of the bigger picture and the necessities of the product and can't afford losing money would never hire a non-professional athlete who is not trained and on a high level of discipline, would never hire him to work for them as a professional athlete. I'm talking here about clients who are conscious, who know what they want and what they are doing and what this field is all about. People who are not conscious might afford living in the illusion that playing a game has nothing to do with discipline. And you can actually see it in the behavior of the fans who smoke and drink beer, and many have their bellies bouncing while they cheer their favorite teams. The shape of the fans show how unconscious they are regarding what is required in order to sustain the game as a business. But conscious club owners and managements know exactly what they need and why they need their teams on a high level of professionalism and discipline, and also why they need their fans trapped in that illusion to keep paying for the dream. Don't get me wrong, the fans with the belly and the beer and the cigarettes still can go and practice and play the game in their free time with their friends and families and colleagues and enjoy every aspect of it. They don't have to be on a high level of professionalism because this serves a different function than that function that is wanted by the football club management. The client of the football player is the club that pays his fees, but the client of the club is the fan. that pays for the tickets. And since the fans are not conscious of the business aspect, they live in an illusion that has been created specially for them by the marketing strategists of the club in order to sell tickets. So they have to sell a dream where football is not only sport, it's fame, it's money, it's women, it's masculinity, it's manhood. Think about a man who hires a prostitute. Would he want her to remind him every time that she's a business? That she pays taxes? That this is her profession? That this is her full-time job in order for her to provide for her children? Or would he want her to create the illusion for him that she's a school teacher? Or a nurse? Or a policewoman who has a sexual interest in him? Or an evil stepmom? The pimp or the boss is conscious of the business aspect, but the client pays for the illusion. And if he gets exposed to the truth, he would be turned off. So whether it's in sport or in art or in religions or in prostitution or even in science, there is reality and there is the illusion. Many fans would love to believe the illusion, but clients, the business can't afford hiring people who are not trained or educated or fully dedicated to this lifestyle. So if you like to sing, you don't have to study it. You can just sing. You can go to a karaoke club. You can sing in the toilet or in the shower. Or you can sing even for your friends and family, even in the choir of the church. But in order to sing professionally and to be hired for your singing business, you need to learn and master the vocal techniques and music theory and train for years. And if you are not trained, if you sing out of tune, and if you're not following the rhythm, etc., yet there is someone that wants to hire you to sing in his wedding, good for you both. I have no judgment. I wish you both the best with that. But mostly, such a thing doesn't happen. Of course, the fans would love to believe in that illusion that there's a girl that never took one singing lesson in her life, but she became one of the most famous singers. As we said, the fans pay for the illusion, but the client of the singer who can't afford losing money can't afford such illusions. My message here is made for those who, whose families have no entanglement with politicians and gatekeepers. Of course, in societies where corrupt governments took over the art industry, they can hire anyone out of nepotism because they don't pay from their own money, but from the tax-paying cow with the endless milk. So here one doesn't need to be on a high level of professionalism in order to make a living, but he has to be an insider. However, in the private sector, one can't afford such corruption because the decision maker is the one who's going to pay for the losses from his own money, not from the taxes of others. Those who are not conscious of the requirements, let's say, in order to sing professionally, and because they are not conscious, they think there are no requirements, and therefore start developing belief systems that they can sing professionally just like that, just because their mom told them so, that they are talented. And even when everyone around tells them that they are amazing singers, and therefore they go to singing competitions on TV, they have traumatic experiences that are recorded online forever. Again, it is fine to sing and enjoy every aspect of it, but singing and singing professionally are two different things. Singing professionally means making money out of it. And you can make money out of it only when you know what you're doing. And that requires study. So, it is not important to study art in order to make art. It is important to study art in order to sell art and to make a living out of it. Because simply a client who can't afford wasting money can't afford investing in an illusion, but only in a product that can leverage their investments and increase revenue. There is even a more sophisticated phenomenon of people that take a couple of workshops or few lessons or study the fields partially or work as an assistant in a studio and then think to themselves that they are experts. So they become too opinionated, talking cliches and general concepts with conviction. We talked about this in the past, if you remember, on this channel. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where ignorant people think they are experts. Some of those even make for themselves professional marketing and branding to sell themselves as fully professional and expert, to even teach that profession. And in rich and decadent countries, they might even have a lot of clients, because no one can even imagine that a scammer can look like this, because they are programmed and brainwashed to conceive scammers only as different races and religions. You know how many acting and singing teachers in Berlin, Germany, have never studied professionally? Neither have they performed on stages or in films, but they have studios where they teach acting and singing and performance out of intuition and some Dunning-Kruger effect concepts. And they have clients who on one hand can afford being scammed because of the decadent civilizational state, and on the other hand cannot imagine that this impressive European woman or this impressive European man, this can be a scammer? Can he or she be a fraud? This scammer category in their eyes is reserved only for Indians and for blacks and other nations. But scammers don't look like this. And this brainwash causes the client's lifetime damages without being aware of the cause and effect. They might even get angry and cunning if you dare to touch that nerve. That is why it's almost impossible to help here after the damage is done. But in a society where the client can't afford being scammed, and where the client knows exactly what he or she wants from the product, there will be no gambling. You know that religions and governments have been the main client of art even before the age of decadence and nepotism. Haven't you asked yourself why? The music of the church composed by legendary composers, the painting, the architecture. Do you think that the religious establishment doesn't know the psychological effect of those products upon the mental and emotional state of the fans / the visitors of the / the payers of the church tax? Do you think that if the church used nihilistic artists to splash their nihilistic avant-garde on the walls, would that cause the same effect? Do you think it's an accident that Hollywood has been making propaganda films for decades? Anti-Russian films, anti-Middle East films, anti-South America films, and films that glorify the character of the American soldier and the police and the CIA agents? The unconscious fans would be enjoying the entertainment while being brainwashed. But the professionals know the intentions behind the social engineering campaigns, whether for the purpose of recruiting agents and soldiers or for justifying the wars on peaceful nations, demonizing them in order to steal their oil and natural resources, and then calling them terrorists, or in order to make the war criminals feel good with themselves after torturing innocent people to death in Guantanamo, after abducting them without trial or legal representation. All this storytelling industry to maintain the ethos of moral superiority. And now in the West, we are living in a racist, hateful world thanks to decades of brainwash that has successfully sustained the luxurious lifestyles of bankers and politicians and the oil companies and the weapon industry and the pharma industry. Even more than this, some religious and governmental entities know the significance of artists for the survival of the system more than artists themselves. Some governments privatize transportation and prisons while controlling more and more of the art industry. Let that sink in for a moment. Even many trained artists cannot conceive the importance of their work to the system, because all they look for is who's paying for my next job. All they have to do is read the script and be on time and deliver on time, but the why and the big picture is mostly seen by the client who uses them as a function in their system. The German government even tried to use their football team for their political agenda in the latest World Cup in Qatar. Is it about sport or about politics and agendas? Same thing with artists. You see the politicians making a fancy party paid by the taxpayer, of course, and you see actors and artists sniffing around like mice after cheese. Who's the casting director here? Who's the producer here? And you see the producers sniffing. Where are the politicians here? Somebody can give me money? Someone can give me access to the funds of the government? All the artists run like mice with no dignity, begging for someone to give them a piece of the cake, without seeing anything beyond that, thinking that the art industry is financed by the generosity of the politicians to maintain the cultural progress and contribute to the evolution and the spiritual evolution of humanity, and on the way, His Majesty can throw them some bones. Not only the government, any political agenda. If you watch the film industry, it doesn't require too long and too much awareness to detect who is paying for this film. Whether it's the military-industrial complex, or the feminist agenda, or a racist agenda, or the woke left, or the conscious, it is not too complicated to detect who the client of that production is. Of course, not only religious or political agendas, the client can also be a business in the private sector. And this is a different system. Those must hire professional artists, professional graphic designers, or video makers, or editors, or any field that helps them market themselves and brand themselves in order to leverage that into more revenue and income. They can't afford nepotism or poor judgment to hire artists who don't know what they're doing. And if they do, out of ignorance or poor judgment, they will pay for it. If that's fine with them, I don't care. But I wouldn't invest in people who only project sophistication. I need to know that they do back it up with skill and knowledge, because my goal is the achievement, not talking. In short, no one has to study art in order to make art. One can play and create and enjoy every moment of that process. It might even be healing and inspiring. But business is a different league. Of course, an amateur can try to become a business. And if he succeeds to survive the challenges that the professional world provides, then good for him. Even when above the surface, professionals might sell the illusion that appeals to the fan base, but in the depth, they have their roots deep. And though above the surface, it might look glamorous and glorious and wealthy and famous, but this is only the tip of the iceberg. Below the surface, there is study, hard work, discipline, knowledge, strategy, commitment, loyalty, consistency. And those are invisible but essential. Thank you everyone for staying with me. I hope I could shed some light on this. I'm Shredy Jabarin. Ciao.